Hi everyone, it's Amanda. Today I'm going to be doing another recent reads video where I go over 7 books that I've read recently. I have mostly romance books and I have some flops and one of my favorites of the year, I think. And I think it might be on my top 5 at the end of the year. Like, I shit you not, it's really fucking good. So let's just get into it. But be sure to like and subscribe down below for more bookish content. I'd love to have you here, and let's just get into the books. Okay, so we're just gonna start with the first. Obviously you start with the first one. Oh my god. Okay, so we're Okay, so first we're going to start with the best of the best. I just finished this today actually, and it is Delilah Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This was everything and more. I obviously rated it 5 stars. It was immaculate. It was like a 3 out of 5 on the spice scale. Like, it had some really good spicy scenes. It didn't overtake the plot or anything or overshadow the character development, but it was incredible. It follows Delilah, who is a photographer in New York, and Astrid, who's her stepsister, and she's living in their childhood hometown and she's getting married, and Delilah never felt welcomed or accepted by her stepmom or stepsister. Her parents had both passed away when she was young, and growing up it was just really hard for her. She felt left out by Astrid and her friends. She just had a really hard time, and she has some childhood trauma that she's dealing with in this book, and that's one of the things that I absolutely loved about this book. And it also went over perception of a child. It was just so beautiful. But besides that, the whole fun rom-com plot is that Delilah has to photograph Astrid's wedding and go back to her old hometown, which she ran away from when she graduated high school because she didn't want anything to do with that town. So now she's going back and she's meeting up with Astrid's friends who never welcomed her. Lo and behold, there's a love story with one of Astrid's best friends. That's who the love interest is, and it's one of the maid of honors, so it is so freaking good. It mixes the comedy with serious topics that affect us all, I feel like. Loneliness and fitting in when you were a kid and what that does to you as an adult, and being accepted and how you transform yourself over the years. Also, the main love interest has a child. She got pregnant when she was super young and she had to stay back while all her friends went to Berkeley. So we have that plot line going on as well, and I really loved that too. All of the characters were so good, and you felt for all of their stories. And then this book actually has a second book coming out that follows Astrid's story. The romance in this one was also a 10 out of 10. Their chemistry was there from the very beginning. When she walked into that bar, I mean, it was there immediately. Our 2 girls are really funny and fun to read about, and you can hear their voices differently as you're reading their chapters. You just need to read it if you're interested in a good rom-com that will just lift your heart. And there's just such a strong friend group in this one. If you love groups of girls, I always love that in books. Next we have one that I didn't love. It's Lessons in Corruption by Giana Darling. So I know everyone really loves this series, but I think that this one is less loved than the second one and the rest of the series. So this one follows a student-teacher trope and also a younger man, older woman trope. I don't know if I'm just not a fan of that, because I have read some other ones and I always end up not really loving it. So I think it's a me thing. I think it's a me problem, but I rated this 2 stars. I just thought it was so cheesy, and I couldn't get past it. I was trying to push on and get past the cheese. The amount of times this man calls her babe, I just did not love this one. It's very insta-lovey in my opinion too. It starts off with a woman who is freshly divorced, actually not even divorced, separated, because her husband actually doesn't want to get a divorce, so he's refusing to sign the papers, which is a whole drama ordeal in this book. And one day she's like in a grocery store parking lot or something, and she spots this guy from across the street. He has a motorcycle, and they lock eyes, and that's the moment that they have a connection. And then they keep meeting up, and then he ends up being a student in her class, and then there's some drama with the husband and how he won't sign the papers, and I just found it to be quite boring, if I'm being honest. But I am going to pick up the next book because Jess from Peace Love Books and Tori from Novel Life are going to be doing a read-along for this, which I obviously want to participate in. So I'm gonna read Welcome to the Dark Side next. Hopefully like it a bit better than this. Let me know your thoughts if you think that I'll like this series, if I didn't like this one, or like what's going on. But I know a lot of people don't love this one, so I have high hopes for the rest of the series. Next we have Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Oh, you already know I loved this one. It was 5 out of 5 stars. I loved being back in this town with Hannah, Fox, Piper, and Brendan. It was just a continuation of the story. I felt like I was back with the characters that I loved so much last year, and I was just so happy to be there. Hannah and Fox were a really good couple, and I honestly think I liked them even more than Piper and Brendan. It follows friends to lovers kind of vibes, but it has some serious topics in there, with Fox having some intimacy issues because he's always been a playboy and he's always been seen as the playboy. He has a lot of issues with intimacy and valuing himself. And then Hannah also has some issues thinking that she's always like second best. She's not ever the main character. So those are kind of the serious topics that we follow with these characters. And then the main plot is that she really wants to be doing the music in movies, like doing the whole soundtrack and everything. So she's trying really hard to impress people on her team, and she also has a crush on one of them. So she tells Fox about this crush too, so there's some jealousy going on. It's just such a good rom-com, and their first kiss had me shook and screaming. I think I tabbed it and said like OMG when it happened. Also, you know the steam is just A+ in Tessa Bailey books, so you don't even have to worry about that. So this quote's from Fox's mom. She says, "You can't live life worrying about what people will think. You'll wake up one day, look at a calendar, and count the days you could have spent being happy with her, and no one else, especially the ones wagging their tongues, are going to be there to console you." So it's basically saying like all the people who aren't there for you right now, who are talking major shit or like whatever, are not gonna be there. So why do you care? You know what I mean? And I just love that. I love that so much in a romance book. I just love when there's some quotable quotes going on. So that's this one. We do have a live show coming up on Monday about this one, so be sure to be there for that. It's gonna be so good because we have some people who didn't like it and some people who did like it. So that should be a really fun discussion, but I loved it. Next we have another rom-com. I was just in a rom-com mood or something. Not so meet cute. This one was way more like rom-com-y than any of the other books that I've mentioned that are rom-coms. I don't know how to explain it, but it's much more like almost cringy. It's very much like trying a lot to be funny, but I didn't mind it. I rated it 4 stars. It was a little bit cringy at times, but once you got over that and you started just being like, okay, I'm just gonna vibe with it, then I started liking it. So in this one, we're following our main character, Lottie. She's in search of a fake fiance because she just lost her job, in which it was like her best friend who is also her nemesis because she's kind of bitchy. And yeah, it's just a horrible situation. This girl's been using her for years, and then she fires her when things are going good for her company. Anyway, she needs a fake fiance so that she can look good at this high school reunion, you know, boss up. And then our main man over here, he is a billionaire and he's in search of a fake fiance because he just made a major error by telling somebody important that he wants to business partner with that he has a fiance to seem more relatable. So that man invites them to dinner and he doesn't even have a fiance, so he has to find one in like 4 days to go to this guy's dinner. So they end up meeting. I won't spoil anything for you, and there's a lot of banter. It's kind of fun. There's enemies to lovers going on. There's fake dating, all the tropes, and there's also some really funny scenes. There's this one scene that actually had me cackling. It had to do with fake babies. If you know what I'm talking about, the juniper scene, that was hilarious to me. So this one ended up being kind of forgettable in the end, but it was still a really fun time and made me smile, so that's a win in my book. Next I read I Married a Lizardman. This is a monster slash alien romance where our main character is human and our hero is Lizard. We follow this world where you can get matched up to almost like an arranged marriage at this matchmaking service place, and our main character gets matched with Alex, who's from another territory. So she ends up agreeing because it's the best chance she has at a good life. She's a third daughter, and in her world there's like a casting system, and that's the lowest you can be. So she wants to obviously take this opportunity because Alex is the like king of this territory. So she got matched with someone super important, and his culture and territory is way different than her human one, obviously. So they have some fumbling to do. What I will say about this one was that I was expecting so much more smut, because when you see a cover like this or just alien romance in general, you think, okay, it's gonna have a lot of smut in it. I mean, I think I remember only 2 or 3 scenes, which was just mind-blowing to me. I was pretty surprised at how much I did like it, even though it was written very differently than other alien/monster romances that I've read. It was written very old-fashioned, which is why the people that I read it with, some of them DNF'd because of the writing style. It was like almost like historical romance. If it intrigues you, I'd pick it up. It had some fun smut. I just wish there was a little bit more. Next, we read Credence in a read-along, which I'm sure you've seen on my channel. I rated this one 5 stars again. I absolutely love Credence. It's one of my favorites. I just think it's such a smutty, fun time. I love Tiernan. It's about a girl who lost her parents, and her step-uncle calls her and says, hey, I have custody over you, and you can come live with me in Colorado in the mountains. She's from California. She decides to go through with it and go live with them. And she has a romance with all 3 of them, but ends up choosing one in the end. Something about this book just speaks to me, and I know you're probably like, girl, what about sleeping with 3 family members gets you? No. It's Tiernan's character that I really relate to. I don't know how to explain it. I cry like twice in this book, even again upon reread. So I can confirm it is still a fave. And lastly, we have Castle in Their Bones, which is a YA fantasy. I don't read a whole ton of it anymore, but when I do, I have a great time. I read this so fast and it was so much fun. So this one follows 3 sisters that are destined to rule 3 different territories in order for their mother to ultimately take over the kingdom. And they end up being betrothed to 3 different princes, and they each have a mission. And you get the perspective of all 3 sisters. There's twists and turns. It's royal core. I honestly, upon like reflection, I like it even more than I remember liking it. It just was so good. I still remember what happens, and the ending was really good. So I ended up rating this one 4.5. So those are all the books that I've read recently. I hope you found something to pick up and put on your TBR. As usual, please like and subscribe down below for more content from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.